Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you are new, please hit the subscribe button. We are about 100 subscribers away from hitting that huge milestone, 1,000 subscribers. If you could help me out, that would be incredibly generous of you and I would appreciate it immensely. My name is Spellslinger and today we are doing a Synchron deck profile. Not Stardust Synchron, unfortunately, because as of right now, the card lot in Master Duel is not updated with the with a lot of the Synchron support released from Dawn of Majesty. So unfortunately, we will be doing a little bit of a hindered version of the deck, but up until this point, it's been really good for me. It's been putting in a lot of work, and stick around until the end. I have a couple replays for you, just showcasing what the deck is capable of, the power output, the consistency, and everything like that. So stick around until the end after the deck profile for some awesome replays. So, with that being said, we'll jump straight into the deck profile. So first things first, a card that we do not have access to in the TCG, which is at 3 in Master Duel, Jet Synchron. Of course, it's a level 1 tuner. This card is so good and it is so integral to this deck, and it was a huge hit when it was banned in the TCG because of Eldritch and because of just a whole bunch of other Hauka-Fibrex combos. But luckily it is here in Master Duel at 3, so we are able to use it, and we're running it at 2. If it's sent to the graveyard as Synchro material, you can add a junk monster from your deck to your hand. That's not the real applicable effect here. It can come up. The main one here is that you can send a card from your hand or graveyard, and then if this card is in your graveyard, you can special summon it but banish it when it leaves the field. It's super good, super recursive, really good for extension in this deck, which this deck can hurt for a little bit, but it's super good. We played 2 of the Jet Synchron just because we want to see it as often as possible. And obviously, if you don't know, this deck is just synchro summon the deck, synchro turbo, however you want to put it. We are using the effect of Junk Speeder to get out as many different leveled Synchron tuners from our deck as possible and just summon as much as we can. So we're playing Jet Synchron as our level 1 tuner. We're playing 2 Quillbolt Hedgehog, just again a really good extender, and we can dump it very easily off of the effect of the Chaos Ruler, which we'll get into a little bit. But there's just a lot of really good ways to get Quillbolt Hedgehog into the graveyard to summon it back. If it's in the graveyard, you can special summon it but banish it when it leaves the field, and you have to control a tuner to activate and resolve this effect. So again, just a really good extender. For our level 2 Synchron, we're playing 2 of the Floor Synchron. Other than just being a really, it's a level 2, so we can summon it off of the effect of the Junk Speeder. If it's used as synchro material for a synchro summon, you can special summon a 1 level 2 or lower monster from your hand. So just again, really good extension. So we're playing 2 of those, and that is our level 2 for the effect of the Junk Speeder. Arguably one of the best cards in the deck, Dopple Warrior, is such a good extender. When a monster is special summoned from your graveyard, except the damage step, you can special summon this card from the hand, and then if it's sent to the graveyard as synchro material, you can special summon 2 of the Dopple tokens, which can be further used to go into more synchro plays and just, get a bigger board in there. So we want to see this as often as possible. So we want to see it as, like I just said it, but as often as possible. And it's very easy to dump with the effect of the Chaos Ruler, which again, get into in the extra deck. I'll be explaining everything. This is a very in-depth profile, and I intend to explain everything that's going on here. So after that, we're playing more extension, Caligo Clawcrow. If you control a dark monster, you can special summon this card from your hand. You can only use that once per turn, but we're playing a lot of dark, so it's not really an issue. And again, it's just really good extension. We want to play a lot of the non-tuners because we play a lot of tuners in this deck. So we play 3 of that just as really good extension. We're playing 2 of the Synchron Carrier. Typically in the regular version of this deck, the Stardust Synchron, we would completely cut the Synchron Carrier and just play 3 of the Caligo Clawcrow, but because this deck is hurting for extension on end boards sometimes, and just to get into our boards, we play the Synchron Carrier just as a way to get into our Junk Speeder plays if we are unable to get into it any other way. So during the main phase, you can normal summon a Synchron monster in addition to your normal summoner set. You can only use that one per turn. And then the other effect, which isn't used as often, is if another Synchron monster is sent to the graveyard as material for a synchro summon of a warrior or machine synchro monster, while you control this card, you can special summon a Synchron token, which is a level 2 and then you can go into other plays from there. Synchron Carrier most of the time is just going to be used to actually get into your Junk Speeder line, because if you open the Junk Carrier and the Junk Synchron, you can normal summon out the Carrier and then use an additional summon to get out the Junk Synchron, and then that's a 2 and a 3 to go into the Junk Speeder. Next up, very important card, really good card here. We're playing 3 of the Junk Converter. You can discard this card and 1 tuner, add a Synchron monster from your deck to your hand. If this card is sent to the graveyard as a Synchro material, you can target a tuner in the graveyard and special summon it in defense, but it can't activate its effects this turn. So this card is super good. If you open Junk Converter and any tuner, it is, you can go into the Junk Speeder. So if you open a Junk Converter and another tuner, of course you can activate the effect to add a Junk Synchron, normal summon the Junk Synchron, and then target the Junk Converter in the graveyard. That's a 2 and a 3 to go into the Junk Speeder, so that is an enabler for your main play right there. But speaking of Junk Synchron, super good, awesome, must include in every form of this deck. Playing it at 3 when it's normal, when this card is normal summon, target a level 2 or lower monster in your graveyard and special summon it in defense, but negate its effects. So like I was saying, Junk Converter and Junk Synchron is a really good duo to have. If, you know, normal summon the Junk Synchron, target the Junk Converter to bring it out. That's a 2 and a 3 to go into Junk Speeder, and then once Speeder's out, you can get even more advantage off of the effect of the Converter to bring out another copy of the Junk Synchron after that. I'm going to skip the Fire Ant, a Skater. When we get to the Skater Dawnwalker, I will talk about that. We're playing 3 copies of Ash Blossom, just a little bit of interruption if we're going second, obviously, which is completely fine. Just want to see that if you're going second, because this deck wants to go first and set up really good boards. So you're going to have to go second inevitably sometimes, so play at 3 Ash to mitigate that. Playing 1 Road Synchron. This is, you could cut this if you want to. I haven't found a really good use for it yet. It's just another body to put on the board when you use the effect of the Junk Speeder. It becomes a level 2, so it can be really good for going into plays further down the line, but honestly, I might replace this with something else. I'm not really sure. When it's summoned by an effect, or when it's used for the summon of a monster that isn't Road Warrior, you reduce its level by 2, so it's just a level 2 going into any other Synchro monster. Alright, so a Skater Dawnwalker. This combo line, at least I found, works really well. So we play 3 of this. We want to see it in our opening hand. It's just an easy way to get out an early Chaos Ruler if we can't go into it by any other ways. So Skater Dawnwalker, discard a card from your hand and special summon this card in defense position, and then you can summon a Fire Ant, a Skater, from your hand or deck. So this is this guy. So you discard, summon this guy, and then special summon the Fire Ant, and that is a 3 and a 5, which is a level 8. We go into the Chaos Ruler and go into place from there. Don't worry, again, I will be explaining all of the reasons that we are playing the monsters in the extra deck that we are, so don't worry about that for 1 second. The only reason I'm including Dark Hole is because I pulled the Royal Rare, and I'm trying to flex a little bit. Don't hate. I'm just pumped to have it. So Dark Hole, replace it with something else. The only reason it's here is because it looks pretty, and it has an application in one of the replays. So stick around for that. It's hilarious. So going after that, playing a bunch of 1-ofs. We're playing the Monster Reborn, as well as the Reinforcement of the Army, and a 1-for-1. Reborn is obvious, just good for extension. Reinforcement of the Army to add a copy of the Junk Synchron, since it is a warrior, or a Junk Converter, just to get your plays online. After that, a 1-for-1. Send a monster from your hand to the graveyard and special summon to level 1, so we're going to get Jet Synchron. We want to see it as often as possible. So there is that. So we're playing, after that, 3 copies of Tuning. Add a Synchron tuner from your deck to your hand, then send the top card of your deck to the graveyard. Really good card, just more ways to open Junk Synchron or any other good monsters from your deck to go into plays and to enable more plays there. Call by the Grave is played at 2. It can only be played at 2 because it is limited here, and this deck hard loses to Ash Blossom on the Junk Speeder, and we want to make sure that we avoid that at all costs. So we max out on the Call by the Grave to play around any hand traps that our opponent may have. So just play that at 2, and it is a form of interruption if we set it going first, and we're able to keep it on the boards. So yeah, we're just playing Call by the Grave at 2, just insulation for our plays. After that, Forbidden Droplet. This is probably the best card to have either going second or first. We end on, there's a lot of times that you'll play and your end board will be like just a bunch of like your big boss monsters, and then maybe one or two monsters on the field that didn't really have a purpose, or you weren't able to finish a combo line or something like that, and they're just floating on the board. You can set Forbidden Droplet and just use that as fodder to negate the effects of monsters. Since it is a quick play spell, you can play it on your opponent's turn. You send any number of cards from your hand or graveyard to the field, or on the field to the graveyard, and choose that many effect monsters your opponent controls. Half their attack and their effects are negated, and then your opponent can't respond to this card's activation with the type of card that you send to the graveyard. Basically what that means is that you activate Forbidden Droplet, and let's say that you send like a Dark Hole from your hand as well as a Fire Ant Escator. What that means is that they can't respond to this card's activation with spell cards or monster effects. So they can't do that. If we had trap cards and we sent a trap card, that would mean that they can't activate trap cards in response as well. But that's just the basic rundown. And that is the main deck. That is what I have put together. There are a ton of other ways to play this. Like I always say, this is not, my way is not, maybe not the best way for you. If you would have fun playing different cards, different staples, please do it. Let me know how it does for you, or if you have any suggestions on what you would change personally. But with that being said, let's get into the extra deck. Starting off with a copy of Formula Synchron. When this card is synchro summoned, you can draw a card. Good, nice. And then once per turn during your opponent's main phase, you can synchro summon using this card. So there are a couple cards that we have that allow you to synchro summon on your opponent's turn, this being one of them. And if you are able to have this card on the field as well as a level 8, you can go into a copy of Satellite Warrior and just nuke your opponent's board, which is really cool. And we'll of course we'll get into it in just a second. But Formula Synchron, really nice card to have if you're able to end on it at all. The second card we're playing, which is another Royal Rare. I actually crafted this one. I didn't pull it, sadly enough, but just looks amazing. I love the Royal Rares in this game. Anyway, Celestial Double Star Shaman. When this card is synchro summoned, you can special summon up to 4 level 2 non-tuner monsters from your hand and or graveyard in defense position. They have their effects negated, and then you can't special summon from the extra deck except synchro monsters for the rest of the turn. But that's not a problem. We're literally only playing synchro monsters. So this is just, again, really good for extension, really good for going into plays and building on boards that you already have. And also it just looks so good. After that, we're playing the 1 Martial Metal Marcher. Same thing along the lines with the Double Star Shaman. When it's summoned, you can target a tuner in the graveyard and special summon it in defense position, but negate its effects. And then you can only use the effect once per turn. And then a synchro monster that is used this card as material is treated as a tuner while it's face up on the field. So that's an interesting thing to keep in mind while you are comboing. After that, we're playing 1 Herald of the Arclight. This is going to be pretty standard to end your board on, at least with the way that I play the deck. It's just an Omni Negate. You tribute it, and it negates any card or activation that your opponent does, whether that be a monster, spell, or trap. And then a second thing to keep in mind, there is a secondary effect with this, where any card that is sent from the main deck from the hand or main deck to the graveyard is banished instead. We're not going to worry about the third effect. It's just a ritual based type deal, so don't worry about that. But Herald the Arclight, really good. Next up is TG Hyper Librarian. It is just a standard level 5 monster, and every time that you synchro summon a monster while the TG Hyper Librarian is on the field, you draw a card. So you can get some insane just advantage with this card if you play it correctly. So something to keep in mind as well. We're playing 1 Excel Synchron. This is one of those monsters that you're allowed to synchro summon on your opponent's turn with. But the main effect here is once per turn, you can send a Synchron monster from your deck to the graveyard and then increase or reduce this card's level by the level of the sent monster. So for example, Excel Synchron effect, you can dump a Junk Synchron. You can either increase or decrease the level of the Excel Synchron by 3, so it would either be a level 2 or a level 8, depending on what the board calls for, and just you can go from there. The main enabler of this deck, Junk Speeder. When it's special summoned, you special summon from the deck as many different leveled Synchron tuners from your deck as possible. And we are playing like I went over in the main deck. We're playing the Junk Synchron as the level 1, Fleur Synchron as the level 2, the Junk Synchron as the level 3, and the Road Synchron as the level 4. Just so many bodies to get out with this. Just to go into plays and to see what it enables. So it's just really cool. The best card in the deck. This is just what the deck is based on, bar none. Great card. Next up, we have Stardust Charge Warrior. It is just a generic level 6. When this card is synchro summoned, draw a card. Just easy peasy. And then it can attack all special summon monsters your opponent controls once, which is really cool if you need to make like a lethal push or something, or get like just bodies off the field. It's just an option that you have going second or going just into the battle phase. The next thing we're playing is the FA Dawn Dragster. It's a spell and trap negation, as well as just a good level 7 to have. Because while we have Omni negates and monster negates, we don't have dedicated spell and trap negation, which FA Dawn Dragster allows us to get. So it gains attack equal to its level times 300 when it's summoned, and then it also does piercing. So it starts off with 2100 attack, if I did my math correctly. Which I did. So it starts off with 2100 attack, and then each time you activate the spell and trap negation, it reduce its attack by 600. It will decrease its level by 2, decreasing by 300 for each level, which will bring it down to 1500 attack for the first time, and then from there, and so on and so forth. So just keep that in mind, just something to juggle while you're playing, going into late grindy games. If you get this out, you're able to use it multiple times over the course of multiple turns. You can only use the negation effect once per turn, but just keep in mind its level and watch where that's at as you're going. After that, the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, also just a staple end board monster. It's a monster effect negation and destroy. And then after that, it also has a really good effect where if it battles an opponent's level 5 or higher monster, during damage calculation, this card gains attack equal to the current attack of that opponent's monster it is battling. So only for that damage calculation, so it's not a permanent gain or anything like that, but it is just a really good way to get over your opponent's really big monsters, as well as just push for really good lethal damage going into late games as well. So monster negation and destroy, and just really good. So getting into the last 5 cards here, Chaos Ruler, the Chaotic Magical Dragon. This is also a really important card to have here. When it's synchro summoned, you excavate the top 5 cards of your deck and add a excavated light or dark monster to your hand, and then send the remaining cards to the graveyard. So off of this, you can add a couple different things. You can add a copy of the Dopple Warrior or the Caligo Clawcrow, which is really good for extension, as well as you can add a copy of the Junk Synchron, or a copy of, I guess you could add Road Synchron if you wanted to. But for the most part, it isn't all. It's another way to get Jet Synchron into the graveyard, even if because you're not able to add it to your hand. It'll just be sent to the graveyard if it is part of the 5 cards that you excavate. So getting Jet Synchron into the graveyard is really nice, as well as just either if you hit a Dopple Warrior or a Clawcrow, just really good extension there. So in your ideal setup, you would be able to summon the speeder, get out of course a copy of your Jet Synchron, and you can either go into other plays or immediately go into the next card, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend. But we'll get into that in just a second. The other effect is that if it's in the graveyard, you can you can banish a light and a dark monster, and then special summon it from the graveyard, and then banish it when it leaves the field, and you can only use the effects once per turn, but that is something to keep in mind for further extension, and just had to fodder to have for Satellite Warrior as well, if you're able to get out a couple other monsters. But Heart Red Dragon Archfiend, you basically, the only way you're going to be summoning this is the Chaos Ruler and a Jet Synchron, because it specifically requires a tuner and a non-tuner Dark Dragon Synchro monster, which is going to be your Chaos Ruler and your Jet Synchron. So Chaos Ruler dumping a Jet Synchron to the graveyard, use the effect of the Jet Synchron to get it back onto the field, Synchro Summon with the Chaos Ruler as well as the Jet Synchron to go into the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. So, what does this card do? You can quick effect, target a one face-up a card that your opponent controls and negate its effects until the end of the turn. So it doesn't have to be a monster. If your opponent activates the effect of a spell or trap card, it is still considered a face-up card on the field, so you can negate that effect of that card. Not a lot of people know that, but with Master Duel being an automatic simulator, it will give you that option no matter what. So just keep that in mind. Also, a secondary effect with this card, when you deal damage to your opponent with this card, you can target a tuner in your graveyard and special summon it in defense position. So again, just really good going into late game, going into grindy games, and just being able to get out more monsters to go into further plays. After that, we're playing a copy of Untitled Warrior. This card is really good. It's really good going into late plays, and if you're able to set up summoning this on your opponent's turn with either a copy of the Formula Synchron or the Excel Synchron, it can just be devastating. So when it's Synchro Summoned, you can target cards your opponent controls up to the number of Synchro monsters in your graveyard and destroy them, and then if you do, this card gains 1,000 attack for each card destroyed. So over the course of your turn, you're going to be Synchro Summoning, 5, 6, 7, 8 times, so you should have a minimum of 2, 3, 4, 5 cards in your graveyard. So if you're able to summon this even on your turn, it doesn't have to be on your opponent's turn. You can just nuke your opponent's entire board, and then the Satellite Warrior will be at 55, 6,500 damage, and it can just be devastating for your opponent, especially if you're able to especially if you're able to summon it on your opponent's turn with Formula Synchron or the Excel Synchron, both of which allow you to Synchro Summon on your opponent's turn, which is just incredible and is just an amazing way to end the game. So the first of the last two cards, I will say this card is probably the one that I would cut if you're running low on Ultra Dust. This deck is definitely not the cheapest out there, but if you probably hardly ever get this out. So the Cosmic Blazer Dragon, there are very few ways to get this out. It has to be summoned with a tuner Synchro monster, so something either summoned with Martial Metal Marcher making it a tuner, or a Formula Synchron, or what else do we have here? The Excel Synchron is also a tuner, so it has to be summoned with a tuner Synchro monsters and 2 non-tuner Synchro monsters. But if you are able to get it out, it is an amazing card and is super, super powerful. So what does it do? You can banish this card, quick effect, you can banish this card until the end phase to activate one of these effects. When your opponent activates a card or effect, any in general spell, trap, or monster, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. So that's an option. When your opponent would summon a monster, negate the summon, and if you do, destroy that monster. Also amazing. And then the last effect, when your opponent's monster declares an attack, negate the attack, and then end the battle phase. So just really good, really nice, 4,000, 4,000, really big, really powerful, just a really good card to have if you're able to get it out. Alright, and the last card of this deck profile of the extra deck, the Red Supernova Dragon. It requires 3 tuners and a non-tuner Synchro monster. So specifically, realistically, the only way that you're going to be able to get this thing out is with 2 Junk Synchron, which is a 6, a Jet Synchron, which is a 7, and then your Junk Speeder, which is the effect that you're going to be summoning this off of. You can play Road Synchron. Now, the more that I'm thinking about it now, Road Synchron is going to probably be replaced with just a different level 4, just to easier get into Red Supernova Dragon, because even if we get the Junk Speeder out, we would use the 5, the 6, 7, 8, 9, the 10, 11, the 10, 11, and 12. So we would use the Jet Synchron, the Fleur Synchron, and the whatever the level 4 is, as well as the Junk Speeder to go into the Red Supernova Dragon. But with that out of the way, what does the Red Supernova Dragon do? Super good. So it gains 500 attack for each tuner in the graveyard. So you're at minimum going to be having 4 in the graveyard. At minimum 3 in the graveyard with the materials that we are using to boost it up to a grand total of 55 at base, probably 55 or 6,000 depending on what you go into for the Junk Speeder. And then the really good effect here is that it cannot be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. So they'll either have to send it, spin it, bounce it, or banish it. And then once per turn, when your opponent's monster declares an effect, when your opponent's monster's effect is activated, or when a monster's declares an attack, quick effect, you can activate this effect. Banish this card, also banish all cards your opponent controls, and then once per turn during their next end phase after this card was banished by its own effect, special summon this banished card. So just a really good board wipe, really hard for opponents to deal with on their own or on its own. So just a really nice card to have. I'm definitely going to be replacing the Road Synchron with something else just to make this a little bit easier to summon. But that is the deck. That is what I have constructed here. I have 2 replays to showcase what this deck is capable of. Well, I should say 1 to showcase what it's capable of, and 2 something really funny with this Royal Rare Dark Hole. So stick around for that. Hit the subscribe button if you are new. We post daily Master Duel content. I'll see you in just a second with the replays. Alright, so getting into this first replay here, we open not the worst. So this replay is just going to show what this deck really is capable of doing going first. So we're going to activate the effect of the Escator Dawnwalker, pitching the Quillbolt Hedgehog. There's a lot of ways in this deck that we are able to get Quillbolt Hedgehog in the graveyard, and that's why we play it. It's just really good extension when it's in the graveyard, and we have an established board that we can keep adding on top of. So after this, we're going to activate the effect of the Quillbolt Hedgehog because we control a Fire and a Skater, which is a tuner, and that is the requirement to get the Quillbolt Hedgehog back onto the field. From here, we're going to Synchro 8. We're using both of our Escator monsters to go into the Chaos Ruler. So because early on here we don't have access to our Junk Speeder line, we have to go into the Chaos Ruler line to continue our play. So we excavate a Junk Converter, a Junk Synchron, a Tuning, as well as a Dark Hole, and the Escator Dawnwalker. So we're going to go ahead and add the Junk Synchron and dump everything else, including the Junk Converter. So since we haven't normal summoned yet, we're going to normal summon the Junk Synchron, targeting the Junk Converter, special summoning it back out, then going into a Synchro 5, which is our Junk Speeder, going into its effect here to summon out the Junk Synchron, the Fluor Synchron, and the Junk Synchron. So now we have tons of opportunity, and what we are going to do now is we are going to go Jet Synchron and the Chaos Ruler into a copy of the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. So now we are insulated from I shouldn't say insulated from hand traps or Nibiru or anything like that. Also, this deck hard loses to Nibiru, just a heads up. So from here, we are going to Synchro 8 into a copy of the Crystal Wing, which is a monster effect, negation, and destroy. So now we are insulated from hand traps and Nibiru should they activate their effects now. We're going to go ahead and activate the effect of the Jet Synchron, pitching the Ash Blossom to summon itself back out. Now we are going to go into a copy of the Herald of Arclight to summon back out the excuse me. Okay, so since we used the Junk Converter as Synchro material, we are able to special summon out the Junk Synchron, and now we are going to banish a Light and a Dark for the summoning effect of the Chaos Ruler in Graveyard. And this is, I would say, a pretty standard end board that you are able to end on. There are other combo lines that you can do with like TG Hyper Librarian to get a ton more advantage. This is just the most straightforward combo line that you can do, and typically this is pretty standard for what you're able to end on. You are able to end on the Abyss, the Crystal Wing Synchro Dragon, Herald of Arclight with a couple of fodder, and hopefully a Forbidden Droplet to use on your opponent's turn, and just the Chaos Ruler, which is just a body right now, but it is a big body to have on the field. So with this being said, we're going to go ahead and throw it back to our opponent. Draw phase, standby phase, main phase 1. They're going to go ahead and set 2 and normal summon the Lancer Dragonoot. The only reason that I'm showing this replay and not a more competitive replay is I just want to show you what the deck is capable of if it is uninterrupted. So with this, it's not really going to be a huge issue. We're just going to, go ahead and clean up pretty easily after this. They're going to pass it back to us here. And we're going to draw a copy of the Dopple Warrior. Now, here's where I kind of messed things up. I could have ended it this turn, obviously. They're going to activate Defense Draw, and I somehow decide to let this go through, which they'll take no damage from this. We'll just get in for as much damage as possible. And ironically enough, if we decided to summon this Dopple Warrior earlier in the turn, then it would have been fine. So we're going to go ahead and just summon an Excel Synchron and pass it back to our opponent. they're going to draw, standby, main, and just concede. So again, I know that this deck was, or this match wasn't particularly competitive, but I just wanted to show you what the deck is capable of going first to set up into the board. So now with that out of the way, let's get into the second replay with the goofy dark hole play. Alright, so for this second replay, we are again going to be going first, and we open pretty good. This is not a bad hand at all. So we're going to activate the effect of the Junk Converter, pitching the Jet Synchron so we can get the Synchron in graveyard, adding the Junk Synchron, normal summoning the Junk Synchron, activating the effect, targeting the Converter to summon back out the Converter. Then we're going to activate the Dopple Warrior in hand to summon it out, then go into our Synchro 5, which is our Junk Speeder, activate the effect of the Junk Speeder, chaining the Junk Converter, getting out another copy of our Junk Synchron. Junk Speeder is going to be able to get out a copy of the Synchron, just of the Synchron, of course. Yes, the Jet Synchron, Floor Synchron, and the Road Synchron. So we're going to go ahead and go into our Chaos Ruler here now. Activate the effect of the Chaos Ruler here. Quillbolt Hedgehog, Floor Synchron, Caligo Clawcrow, the Junk Converter, as well as another Quillbolt Hedgehog. So we're going to add the Caligo Clawcrow, dumping everything else to the graveyard. Going to go into now the copy of the Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss. Now we're going to go into the Herald of Arclight. Going to summon out the Dopple Warrior activate the effect of a couple of cards in our graveyard. We kind of mess up here because now we are kind of I wouldn't say really messed up, but here is where I kind of let my choice paralysis get the best of me, and I can just keep clogging up my board with plays that don't really add up to a whole lot. So we summon out these the Stardust Charge Warrior, which allows us to draw, summon out the Quillbolt Hedgehog, and this board doesn't really do a whole lot for us. Excel Synchron gets out. We're gonna banish a light in the dark for the Chaos Ruler out here, and then summon out the Skater Dawnwalker. This board is goofy as hell. It's just a bunch of dudes that don't really do anything. We have an Omni Negate in Herald of Arclight, Hot Red Dragon Archfiend Abyss, and an Ash Blossom. So we have negation here, but this board could have been so much better. I think just it was a combo of me trying to get footage as well as just choice paralysis when it came to, you know, the feeling when you have too many different avenues of what you can do, and then you just end up taking the wrong one and your board ends up with a bunch of goofy dudes like this. So we're gonna go ahead and just pass it to our opponent with this goofy board that we have here. They are playing Ice Barrier. They're going to normal summon the Sacred Spirit, summon out the Speaker, and activate the card destruction. I figure, why not? We're just going to go ahead and Ash this to prevent them from potentially getting into more plays. So after this, they're going to Battle Phase, get over our Herald of the Arclight, and from there, they're going to end phase and attempt to bounce back our Hot Red Dragon Archfiend, but we're going to chain the effect to negate, and just from there, just avoid the bounce back of the effect of there. So turn change, and I draw Caligo Clawcrow. We're going to activate the effect of the Excel Synchron, just a bunch of nothing plays right now. Just normal summon the Caligo Clawcrow and just get over all of their guys. And get in for 32 and 9. So with all these dudes, we were somehow not able to get game on this board. So again, just a really goofy match going on right there. They're going to set and turn change back to us, and we draw for turn the Royal Rare Dark Hole. I knew playing this match that this match was just going to end goofy, so I decided to play the big brain play and activate the Dark Hole. Why? I don't know. It makes for good content, doesn't it? So we activate the effect of the Dark Hole, wiping our entire board and passing it back to our opponent. And from there, I'm just going to fast forward here. They do some Ice Barrier plays. And just... I halfway expected them to just concede and be a good sport about it, because obviously I was very much in control of this game, even though my board was very goofy and very weird. Either way, it was just good fun. I wasn't really super worried about what it would do to the rating or whatever. And after this, it's just it you know, it doesn't really matter. Just more Ice Barrier plays and they end up getting in for game. So I hope you guys have enjoyed these replays and the deck profile. Let me know if there is any type of content that you want to see. We are so close to that 100 subscriber mark. Please hit the subscribe button. Help me get to that 1,000, and stay tuned for daily Master Duel content. I have been Spellslinger, and I will see you next time.